What's up, everybody? Shawn here, back with another live to roll for you. We got an awesome, fun show talking about some travel today. So let's get into our quick intros, and then we'll let Gretchen introduce herself. I am Shawn. I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic from a snowboarding accident 20 years ago. Tom, you want to introduce?
Hi, everybody. Y'all know me, Tom Conaway, C6B quadriplegic for, 27 years in like 2 weeks. Um, yeah, coming at you from beautiful, sunny Southern California and excited to talk about traveling today. So I'll turn it over, I guess. You mind taking a second to introduce yourself, Gretchen? We're super excited to have you here.
Super excited to be here, guys. I'm Gretchen. I am a C5, C6 quadriplegic. I'm incomplete, and it'll be 10 years this December. So I'm excited to talk travel with all of you guys.
Um,
Mm.
we love traveling, but we all know traveling is not super easy as a quadriplegic. So we were just touching on this before the show. We have all me and Sean have told our story, I feel like 100 times on here, but you mentioned you were injured while traveling. Do you mind maybe telling us a little bit about how you became injured, if you're comfortable with that?
Yeah, so I love traveling. It's been a part of my life ever since I could remember. And so I was actually injured while traveling. We were actually traveling the day after Christmas for a family vacation that we normally take every year. And we were on the way to New Orleans at the time. And I had left my family in the airport in a layover in Dallas, and I went to go meet some of my school friends for dinner. And on the way back, I was a passenger in a car that was T-boned by a drunk driver, so I never made it back to that airport to make the flight to New Orleans that year. So um, got stuck in Dallas, was there um, through the New Year's and stuck there till maybe like 1 week into January, I believe, before I was medevaced back to California for inpatient rehab in NorCal. So I was injured while doing something that I was really looking forward to in New Orleans. So um, it was definitely a crazy time.
Yeah, that is a crazy story. Injured during travel, and yeah, because you weren't on that flight, and yeah, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's go
it
ahead.
was
Go ahead,
kind of
Gretchen.
yeah, it was kind of crazy too because when you're in a different area too, you don't really know um, what to kind of like do in that situation, especially when I was in a hospital that I didn't know. And then my parents and my sister were waiting for me back in the airport and they had no idea what had happened to me. So that was definitely scary. But yeah, the first medevac back to California was my first travel post injury. So
Oh my goodness, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a
That's
different type of travel. That's not the.
exactly.
if you don't mind me asking, what was that like? I've heard about people like doing like medical travel trips, like injured out of the country and stuff. I
Right.
mean, imagine it's just intense and scary. You're going through a lot, but how was that experience?
Yeah, I was in complete shock when the crash happened, and I went into surgery right away. So I afterwards, like I was pretty out of it because I was drugged up
Yeah,
during
yeah,
that
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Definitely in a lot of pain for that week before they had decided to medevac me back to California for inpatient. But I do remember getting on that. It was a tiny plane. I was on a stretcher. My I'm pretty sure it was my dad that came along with me, and I just remember having to have Dilaudid every couple hours just to make that trip bearable because I was still in a lot of pain. So I definitely was just drugged out the whole time on that plane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of crazy. I look back on pictures now and I was like, wow, that's a very small plane. And um, I just remember the personnel on board, the medical personnel, um, was joking around at one point, telling me they wanted to reroute and take me to the Craig Hospital in Denver. And at that time, I had no idea what the Craig Hospital was. I was just
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? And now I'm like, wow, I wish I would have been rerouted.
Right.
Where
Um,
where did you end up doing your rehab at out here?
I loved my rehab actually. It was in Vallejo at Kaiser, and I had a great team up there. So definitely lucky that I had them to.
Shout out
For,
Northern California. I'm from the Bay, so like, I'm pretty familiar with Vallejo area. And I did my rehab in Northern California, in Oakland, at Oakland Children's Hospital. And they're magical, like magical people,
yeah.
magical place. Saved my life.
Mhm.
Um, well, let's get out of medical travel and maybe more into the topic of fun traveling. So it sounds like you were a pretty avid traveler before your injury. How has your experience been since?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess I should speak a little bit into how travel has played a role in my life. So
Totally.
my parents immigrated from India, and they were the only people in our family. We were like the only ones in California. So through childhood, every few years they would take us back to India to meet everybody, for family vacation and stuff. And so growing up, I was able to go back to India, and then on the way to India, my parents would stop in different countries, so Switzerland, Austria, the UK, just to have that stop and then go to India from there. So it made it definitely a fun experience growing up, being able to travel, and so they really instilled the sense of travel, curiosity, adventure in me from a young age, and it was like one of those things where we would be 5 or 6 years old sitting on the plane and watching all the movies, as many as we could, and
Yeah.
having kind of adventures. So I never really thought about life without travel, and so when my injury happened, it was kind of a shock to myself and also my family, because it's been such a big part of our lives.
Yeah.
um, and you know you don't really know how to navigate daily life things. So travel's not really like your number one priority. And so for that first year post injury, I was kind of just focused on trying to get back to some sense of normalcy, right?
Totally.
But during that time, I came down to Huntington Beach 8 months or maybe 6 months post injury and did the Life Rolls On surfing event. And then I ended up doing Disneyland that year as well for my birthday. So I did have a little bit of travel. I just couldn't stay away. But I think people think travels like has to be some grand adventure, but honestly, little things and little memories or experiences really create that sense of travel. And it doesn't need to be something that's across the world. It could literally just be exploring in your backyard. So I think that's important to recognize
Because
as
some of
Yeah,
the
that's
best travel experiences in my life have been like within an hour or two of where I live. So I'm with you. I think that's a really great mentality and a great thing to say. It's also like it can, and again, I don't know everybody's experience. I kind of can get some anxiety traveling. Like at least being far away from home. Like the further I get, the like more intense the anxiety can be, or like the more often I can have it but s- getting away from home, but still being close to home
well. Right.
mitigates a lot for me. It still kind of lets me itch the travel bug. So I just want to say that.
Yeah. Totally. It's one of those things where it's like a sense of adventure no matter what kind of travel you do, as long as you're with the people that make it the best. I think the people are obviously what makes your trip the most memorable and how much you're going to enjoy it. You can be in any place, but if you're with people that you love, it's like 10 times better no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's really who you surround yourself with too. So um, it's funny because I rolled into a coffee shop a couple weeks ago, and there was a quote on the wall that I wanted to share. It said, "You'll need coffee, shops, and sunsets, and road trips, airplanes, and passports, and new songs and old songs, but people more than anything else." And that really just stuck with me because you could be anywhere, and as long as you're with people that make you feel good and are there with you experiencing it, it's like so much more fun.
Have you ever done any solo travel? Or is that something you're not really interested in?
Yeah, so solo travel, I never did it before injury, and then now post injury, like I've traveled alone to places, but I've always met someone there. Like I've
Yeah,
never
yeah.
been, somewhere by myself. I guess I would like to try that maybe one time, but like I said, like I'm a very social person, so I'm like, who am I going to talk to besides myself and the wall, or so I'd rather.
Well, I think that counts as solo travel is like if you're just traveling alone to go visit someone or like go visit people, like, like they're at the destination, but you're still kind of traveling and navigating it, on your own, like at least like the heavy part of it, which is the travel part of it. So I think that totally counts.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah,
Makes
for sure.
sense.
Yeah.
Well, it can be scary. Like I was just curious. Like, I mean, I'm with you. Like, if I can go on a trip, I'd much rather go with someone if the opportunity afforded it. Just because I like being with people and I like company, and like that's how I prefer it. But um, there is something that speaks to me about like being a nomad and like traveling alone and being open to meeting new people and all the experiences that might come along, as a result of you being on your own versus with company or with someone. Um, and it's also a little bit more challenging. Like that's the real deal. Like if you're on your own, especially as a quadriplegic or any kind of disability, because it's great when you have someone along that can help. I think it's nice to challenge yourself and to kind of test the system too sometimes with like the travel, like how it is, because that is kind of the true test is when you're on your own. You the expectation of the transportation service or whatever you're using and stuff like they gotta they got to meet the expectations. They got to be there. They got to do it. Rather than like if I travel with my mom and sister, like if something comes up, it's really no big deal because they can always help me. They can always lift me. They can always transfer me or do whatever it is. But when you're on your own, it's just a very different experience. And I think it's also a little bit character building to kind of travel and push yourself to do that kind of on your own.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for me, it's like I like having that independence and that freedom sometimes to just do whatever you want. Like, you know what I mean? Like, get on a plane and go somewhere and then check into a hotel and literally just starfish on the bed by yourself.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally, yeah,
Getting to that, getting to that is the challenging part, right? Like having
yeah,
to navigate and feel comfortable with asking for help when you need it, and advocating for yourself without anybody there to like back you up. It really builds, like you said, character, but also resilience, adaptability, which the disabled community already does every single day,
yeah,
right? Like just
yeah.
in our daily lives. So I feel like traveling, if you can do it independently, can be something like freeing in a way, but it's also one of those things where just traveling in general is good. Like you don't need to put yourself in that situation if you don't want to. Yeah, like it's so much easier. Like having help, or like even like if it's not, maybe it's like, because I travel a lot with my family because I mean, affordability for friends and stuff to join you is really hard, right? So, like, for me to be able to go to an international trip, like, I know that my family will be able to go with me. My friends maybe not be able to afford that. So, having those different types of trips maybe like can kind of give you a different sense of independence and freeing in a way. So, like, when you're with your friends, I remember like a couple years ago, all my friends ended up having like bachelorette parties, and I had to travel alone and meet them in the middle of the country, and I was kind of freaking out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go by myself and meet them there. And I was definitely freaking out for the longest time and just having to figure out and navigate how I'm going to get myself there, how I'm going to get myself from the airport to the hotel, checked in on my own. It was a lot of planning, but afterwards, I remember coming home and being like, man, I did it. Like, this isn't, I can do it again. And it hasn't stopped me. And now it's like I feel so much more comfortable doing it. So I think it's always that first step. You always are going to have that unknown, that fear in anything that you do. But unless you try it and just try to go for it the best that you can with the preparation that you have, it's like it can be freeing in a way. So
Yeah.
really just,
I was gonna say, taking that first step is the hardest. Once you get over that first hurdle there, and you do it, and you realize that you can do it, even if
mhm.
some, you may run into a few issues and maybe some things you have to adapt and figure out. The fact that you make it through is like it's very gratifying, and like it really does kind of give you that sense of like I can do this. So
Right, and don't get me wrong, like, it was ugly. Like, I fell on the ground, like, it was not pretty. Like, people don't you don't see, like, the behind the scenes parts a lot, right? Everybody puts their best foot forward on social media or wherever. So, like, you don't see those behind the scenes parts until you're, like, talking with someone and you realize, like, oh, like, in the middle of the night, I fell transferring onto the ground and I was just sitting there for an hour. Like, like, you don't hear those things, but then, like, the adrenaline kicks in and then the fear kicks in and I'm like, I am not going to call the fire department to come in here and try to pick me up. And then you start freaking out a little bit and you're like, okay. And so magically somehow I got back into my chair and back onto the bed and everything was fine. But yeah, I mean, you work through it. There are ways to get through it. Like, in that situation, like, there's always something that you can do, and that's why I always say, like, have your phone on you, like, have it close by you. That's one of the things that I always do is like, okay, if I'm by myself and I'm going to the bathroom, I'm taking my phone with me just in case I fall onto the ground, something like that. So I think you kind of find out ways to, like, create safety but also have that sense of independence as well. So it's
I
never pretty.
think a big part of it is knowing and understanding that things are going to happen. Like things are going to come up, like whether it's a slip transfer, whether it's an accident, whether it's like an accessibility issue with the hotel or with wherever you're traveling to, like, or if it's the airplane or the train or the bus or whatever it is. Um, Inevitably something's going to happen, but having the wherewithal and the confidence and the ability to be like, okay, this isn't the end of the world. I've thought about this. I prepared for it the best I could, and here's how I'm going to handle it. Like, I got my phone nearby. I'm going to call a friend. I'm going to call a fire department. I'm going to call the hotel. I'm going to clean myself up, figure it out. Don't care how much time it takes. I'm just on my own schedule. I'm on vacation. It doesn't matter. Like the travel stuff, it can be frustrating. It can honestly kind of be like, I know Shawn can speak to this in seeing Tom probably more frazzled than he's ever been in his life. I It can feel very personal, can feel very intense when you're experiencing it in the moment. When you're hurting, when you're uncomfortable, when people are putting their hands on you, when your chair's been damaged, when this, blah 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 blah. Um, I feel better now having gone through some travel experiences like that where things didn't go that great to like better be able to handle those times and those moments that things weren't awesome. But I think that's a big part of it. It's like preparation and understanding that things are going to happen that you're not going to expect, or like just not going to be super positive or great, but we're all got the strength and the ability to handle them, and you just prepare the best you can, hope for the best, plan for the worst, and enjoy your time the best you can, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the hardest thing about traveling now is, like, it's the hardest, but, like, the best thing. It's the potential for disaster. And I that sounds bad, but, one thing travelers and people with disabilities know about is, like, never to expect things to go as smooth or as, like, planned as you planned it, right? Like, there's
Yeah.
always gonna be something. And it's crazier for people with disabilities, right? Like, we have to rely on a lot more things and more people to help in certain situations. We also have to get over that fear, get over that embarrassment, get out of your comfort zone. Like, when you need help, it can be challenging to ask for help sometimes. And I have a really hard time asking for help. And I've had to learn and be like, no, I cannot carry my bags and drag them through the airport by myself. I need to call someone, or,
Yeah.
I can't make this transfer on my own. I need help. So I think being able to recognize that you might need help, and it's fine if you need help. It's fine to advocate and ask for help. And if you want to do something and you're not able to do it on your own, like, you got to ask for help, right? Like, you shouldn't have to, like, miss out on something because you're too afraid or too embarrassed or anything like that. So I think it's like getting over that fear and just being willing to get into that uncomfortable area for a little bit, and then it gets easier.
We had a comment from Mickey. Maybe you could speak on it, Shawn, because I know someone that has trouble with hotel bed heights and will always get maintenance or somebody to lower it. So, can you talk about your experience with that, maybe, Shawn?
yeah, no, I definitely have that issue because on my own. or like at rugby tournaments, traveling things, I can't do the transfer with the high bed. And I do the same thing, Mickey. That's what I've always done. I learned that early from rugby. Is to call maintenance and have them come remove like either the bed frame, so you just put the box spring on the ground with the mattress. But I have been in hotels that it's like a one solid unit that doesn't, like, there's no way they can lower it or anything. And in that situation, I've just had to find a way to get help in with my transfer. Um, which for rugby, usually like the coach or somebody would be there, or another, friend's family member or something. So that's how I've had to do that if I haven't been able to. But yeah, that's my main best tip is you ask maintenance to do that for you.
I'm like super jelly of like Shawn with like the wheelchair and like the light, like, manual chair and stuff. So when it comes to the travel and the airplane, just seems so much easier and stuff compared to my power chair. But when it gets to the hotel, like being like having the stability of like my power chair being able to like elevate and stuff like above the bed or like to like adjust to it and stuff, I always like feel super grateful for my power chair in those instances because it's helped me a lot. Like I'm able to like drive into the power bed and like shove the mattress over so like I can get closer to it and stuff and things like that. So um I found that the accessibility is different. I mean, I've encountered hotel beds that were like really tough to transfer to, like a big gap and stuff, and it's like, oh, what am I gonna do? Um, you do your best, shove a pillow in there, bridge the gap, whatever you gotta do, right? Like you do what you gotta do.
And I have to actually, Leah actually mentioned in the chat, I forget who it was, but Bobby actually on Rolling Over the Hill, they had a guest. I forget who she was. It was, but she talked about how they travel and they got these really dense foam pieces that they travel with in their car, like for road trips and things. And she's able to roll her chair up onto it, basically, to elevate the chair next to the bed. I'll have to figure out which one that is and put the info in. But I don't remember. But Rolling Over the Hill did like a travel episode probably 6 months ago or something. And it was a cool. I've never seen somebody that did that before, and it was super cool. So that's another idea.
Can
That's a great.
we talk about accessibility a little bit? Um, Planes, trains, and automobiles. What's your favorite way to travel? And what's the most accessible experience you've had with it, Gretchen?
Yeah, so obviously there's been a lot of like discourse and everything regarding planes and having, your wheelchair damaged on the way there or on the way back. And, I'm one of those people, I've had my chair damaged twice now. I use a power chair at home and I use a manual chair out in public. So my experience is mainly with a manual chair when traveling, and I do prefer planes because I like to travel internationally. Um, I also am not a big, like, I don't drive long distances, so I'm not a road trip person unless I'm going with someone else. So and that I'm just a passenger princess. Like should um I should learn how to drive long distance because I think I would be able to go to more places, especially in California or across where I wouldn't have to deal with like wheelchair damage.
Yeah.
But I've also found trains really great too, but that's all been internationally. So I don't have any experience other than a short Amtrak train, which was maybe 2 hours long, which was perfect. It went well here in the US, but trains in Europe are amazing with accessibility and probably my preferred way of traveling there in between countries or in between cities. But definitely I choose flying every time. It just gets the road trips are hard, especially when I need to like stop and cath and all of those things. If we're doing long road trips with a
Yeah.
plane, it is a little bit difficult as well because obviously the bathrooms are not accessible for everyone with chairs, I'm an incomplete quad, so I am able to do a stand transfer, and I've had to do that a couple of times into the airplane bathroom. So I think it's like I try to tell people like think about what you can do and what you cannot do rather than what you cannot do, and like try to plan your travel around that. So like just because you see people's chairs being broken, that's not every single person's case, and it doesn't happen all the time every time. And then some people may not like trains or may not be able to travel that long in a car, you know, due to pain or whatever, and those things too. So it's really what like your own injury level or your own disability allows you to do to like choose your mode of transport, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Makes a ton of sense. And I would say that there's like kind of like pros and cons to each mode too. Like, and I've done a lot of road trips with my family and I like love them, fond memories, like kicking it in the car, watching movies on my iPod, like listening to music and just road tripping it. So I mean, I love that. I love like the speed of airplane travel and like flying in like a machine that's like up in the air, like going very fast across, in like a short period of time. Like I love the convenience and ease of that, but the frustration and the fear and the uncomfortableness of the airplane and like the wheelchair stuff, it's like almost balances it. It's like, oh, like that's barely worth it. Like saving the time that it would take to drive or to do the train. I've done the train too. It was probably one of my like more favorite ways of traveling. I've done shorter trips like San Diego and back through like the Metrolink and stuff, which I love. Like 3 or 4 hours on a train, that's the sweet spot.
Mhm.
Anything more than that, it gets a little, I don't know, at least in my experience with the trains I've been on, the bathrooms have not been accessible, at least for a power chair. Or majority haven't. And yeah, I'm like stuck to the accessible car. Like going to Chicago, it's one of the most fun trips I ever did. Like taking the train, spending 2 days, but it sucked that I couldn't go to the meal cart or like the viewing cart or like I couldn't experience it like everybody else was experiencing it, and that bothered me a little bit, especially since they charged me the same price as everybody. I was like,
Right.
come on, like that's kind
Yeah.
of lame. But um, so I'd say pros and cons to all of them, and yeah, whatever suits you best. I mean, sometimes travel mandates you just taking a mode of transportation too. Like you got to get across the country for something. Like you don't have time to drive. You don't have time to take the train or whatever it is. Um, I hope that things are getting better. I think that things are getting better. There's certainly, like you said, Gretchen, a conversation being had about air travel and stuff. I just feel like there's so much simple things they could do to better improve upon our experience that wouldn't even require drastic changes on their part. But we can do a whole episode talking about accessibility, airplane travel. Shawn, what's your favorite? What's your experience with planes, trains, and automobiles?
Um, I mean, I guess uh, favorite would probably be now in life, maybe road trips. Um, Planes are cool. I do like, like you said, like the quickness, the speed of like you can get across the country in a day, be somewhere, like we did Virginia last year for a rugby tournament. Like that was a long day of travel, but like I literally went from the West Coast to like almost the farthest I could on the East Coast in a day, which was pretty cool to
Yeah.
do. But like it was a long day of travel. Um, I've only really had one major issue with like airlines damaging my chair. So that's been minimal. The one thing I will say too, Gretchen, I had my first international trip this last year going to Switzerland, and the trains and the public transportation in getting around there was a lot different. And I don't know about like the sleeper cars overnight, like accessibility, like if it was a long distance, like Tom having to be on the train for the couple days. But I know the bathrooms were accessible. They were like giant roll in bathrooms that a power chair would easily fit and like be able to spin around and navigate in, like because I had lots of room. um, so I haven't had a lot of train experience in the US, so I can't speak to that at all really. But in Europe I can say that it was actually like surprisingly pretty nice. We were able to get around all over Switzerland with all the different public transportation, the trains and then the like the rail system or whatever. But I would say my favorite now is probably just going to be road trips. I like just the ease of road trip, taking your time. being able to see, the views of the road, enjoying your time. So
I love that you can stop off when you're driving. Like if you're on a train or if you're on a plane, like you can't like, whoo, let me veer off and go check this place out. Like you have agency. Like if you're driving to kind of like make the trip a little bit, more spontaneous or a little bit different. Um, but I also love you mentioned it earlier, and I kind of want to comment on it, Gretchen, traveling without an agenda. Like I love that agency of like, I'm going on a trip. I'm not setting any plans or anything. I might just see what happens. If something pops up that I want to do, I'm gonna do it. Like there's like, and I just love that. I thought that was really great. It's one of my favorite parts about traveling and um, just kind of the spontaneity of it and new experiences that you didn't
Well,
know
and
were out
that's
there.
that spontaneity is hard with, a disability, right? Like it's hard
Totally.
to find that spontaneity. I think um, for me especially, it's like I remember one of my favorite trips from last year is my sister's 30th birthday. She wanted to go to the Amalfi Coast. And I was just like, are you sure? Like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be hills. And, just by the photos, it looked very hilly and cobblestones. And I don't know if I can do that, right? And we went and we just winged it. We literally, we got an Airbnb in a small town. Just outside of Sorrento, and somehow it was accessible enough for me to be able to use the bathroom and the apartment. And from there, we took the train into Sorrento and then took a taxi to the Amalfi Coast. Um, and during that time, my smart drive did die. So my sister ended up pushing me up through the hills of Amalfi Coast. And
Nice.
one of those things we just had to wing it and go for it, and we wanted to see the coast. She really wanted to see it. We wanted to be in that picturesque seaside photo that you always see everywhere, and we did it, and it was just a spontaneous thing. Like we didn't really think about accessibility, which was kind of crazy. And it was probably one of the best experiences just because we did it. We somehow made it through everything. And we
Yes.
still talk about it till this day. We're like, I can't believe your smart drive died. And she'll tell me, like, I can't believe I pushed you up here. But we can still say that we went there and we were able to experience the beauty of that place. And I think sometimes it's just you just kind of go with the flow sometimes.
Sometimes,
Planning, yeah,
go
planning
ahead.
can no, I was going to say planning can take a lot of energy and exhaustion sometimes. And so I've felt that having to plan and research some things. So, I mean, it was kind of a risk going all the way there and just kind of hoping for the best, but it also did relieve some pressure into like planning and researching every single thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say sometimes you gotta risk the biscuit, and like that's part of the experience. And like on the other side, you're like, "Oh, I risked it, but I did it, and it was awesome and totally worth it." Like the smart drive died, little things came up, but nothing that you couldn't handle. And no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, the preparation part can certainly be overwhelming.
Mhm.
Um, Still encourage everyone to prepare a little bit.
and I
Make
was
sure
gonna
your
say
medical supplies are taken care of and stuff like that. Like that
that
preparation is still very necessary.
Charge,
Like,
charge your batteries, charge your
yeah,
whatever, your power
yeah,
chair before you go out on some excursion.
that
exactly.
part of the planning is definitely necessary. Being prepared, like for
Yes.
your own like health and safety
Yeah.
needs, things like that. But I think that even the best laid plans, like you can prepare, you can plan, you can have everything dialed to a T, and then you'll have things that come up, things that happen, and you'll have to adapt and change on the fly with something. But
Right.
uh, so just trying to be prepared, I guess, with like, but that's what one of the questions too. So, what are some of your essentials that you have to travel with? Like, you're like you're not going anywhere without like, I mean,
Yeah.
for medical or for just personal reasons.
Yeah. So obviously have your wheelchair like maintenance before you go anywhere. Like that's what I always start with. Like if I'm planning a trip out of the country, I always have it like checked for, tightening everything, putting air in the tires, like having all that ready before you even leave anywhere. And then obviously medical supplies, catheters, bring extra because that's something that you can't just get anywhere,
Yeah.
right? I tend to travel with incontinence supplies such as like chuck pads and gloves and all of that too. And in the US that's readily available, those things, right? If you go to your CVS or something like that, that's something that you can always just grab if you run out. But like I bring extra if I go out of the country just in case I don't know where their nearest convenience store is. Um,
Totally.
yeah, prescription medication, same thing. Like you're not going to be able to get that just on the fly. Like those things need to be filled and be completely filled to how much you need, and maybe even bring a couple days to at least 5 days, I would say, just in case you get stuck somewhere or your plane is delayed and you have to stay somewhere. That's really important. Another thing is I wear contact lenses, so I need to make sure that I bring everything with my contact lenses. And sometimes I forget that. Like I'll be like, "Whoops, I forgot the solution." And those things, like I said, it's one of those things that you just have a list of now. Like those are the things. I always, it depends. Like if I have a shower bench available at the place, otherwise I bring a shower bench with me. So that's important to know whether I need to bring one with me. Um, Electrical converters in different countries are so important because I need to charge my smart drive, especially, and my phone charger. So chargers, converters, those are super important. I never travel without my smart drive. I never travel without my freewheel, and I never travel without my gloves to protect my hands because that's how I get around. And then another thing I never travel without is obviously all travel documentation and copies. So that's really important, especially when I was in um, I traveled to Barcelona last year, and at one of the um, tour sites, the Parc Güell, they asked for disability. They asked for disability ID, which in the US we don't have that. So I brought a doctor's note. I brought my travel, my parking placard with me, and they asked for that so you can get like into the park at a lower discounted price. And a lot of different attractions everywhere in Europe, especially, will give you discounted prices if you have a disability ID. And the US doesn't have that. Unfortunately, at the park, well, they did not believe that I was disabled still, so I did have a little bit of a mishap there. But we were able to figure that out with the supervisor. But things like that, like when you're researching things, it's important to know ahead of time, like what kind of documentation you might need. Luckily, here in the U.S., we have the ADA, which we don't. There, it's not everywhere, right? So it's like important to recognize that different places have different rules for different things. So if you are planning on going somewhere specific, and make sure that you look up or email or contact before ahead of time in case they need that extra, those extra documentations or copies. And then I always bring a copy of the FAA regulation and rules for the Air Carrier Access Act with me because
Nice.
yeah, I
That's
do
solid.
advocate for myself in putting the chair on board. And I have never had an issue internationally flying with putting my chair on board. They always put it on board for me. It's when I come back into the US on these domestic flights across the country where I have the most problems. Um,
Yeah.
so I always bring that out, and I'm always talking to it's called the CRO, or the Chief Resolutions Officer, before I board the flight, and making sure that they understand that I want to put it on the flight or in the cabin if it's able to fit. So those are the main things that I always travel with. And then my dad brought up something really important. Last year I think it was in Barcelona too, my freewheel broke and I didn't have the tools for it. So he always says to strap an Allen wrench to the back of my chair, duct tape it. So just in case anything on your chair breaks or anything like that, you'll have something to like use, or what we ended up doing was asking hotel management for a toolkit and we were able to fix it. So those
That's
are just,
super awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. My Permobile has like an Allen wrench like embedded into it. Like it's like
Yeah.
secret. You could like pull it out, and it's cool because it's like most of the screws are pretty universal, and I love that because you always have like a little tool to travel with. But that is great. Like duct tape, like taping an Allen wrench to your chair or something if it doesn't have that. I think that's an awesome idea because it's super important, and a little one or two little tools like that could really save you some trouble if like something loosens up or if it's like a simple thing. um, yeah, no, that's great. I'd say like the biggest things for me generally are like my medical supplies. Like though you mentioned like the incontinence supplies, like I should bring like extra of that because just like you said, it's like not readily available stuff. Always when you go places like stuff like that, is like stuff that you really really want to make sure you bring. I don't take too much medication, but I will travel like baclofen or something just in case like something does happen. Sometimes my body will go crazy. I'll get some like extreme spasticity, or like nitroglycerin, like something like that. If I have to like treat AD, like before going to a hospital or something. And again, like I've never had an issue like that traveling. Knock on wood. Um, but it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. To just prepare for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so beyond the modes of traveling, travel prep. Once you're at your destination, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but hotel, Airbnb, camping. How do you make it accessible? What's your preferred Airbnb compared to hotel? Maybe. What's been your experience, Gretchen? What do you like?
Okay, I wrote some notes on this one because I've done almost all of those, I think. So the it depends on really how you want to travel, right? Like, are you looking for something specific when you're at the destination? The hotels, um, especially like whether it's domestic or international travel as well, I tend to try to stay in like hotel brands that I'm like aware of, right? Like that I know that have that cookie cutter um, look, right? That you expect from those hotels. Obviously, not every single hotel is accessible. I like to say when I'm traveling, like everything's adaptable, not accessible, right? So
That's a
that's
good that's a
my
good quote.
yeah, so that's kind of my thing. Like I don't expect everything to be 100% accessible. But there are certain things that I do need to know. Like obviously the bathroom is really important for me. Like I have to be able to make it to the toilet. Like I don't
Yeah,
travel with a commode chair or anything like that. So for me, it's like I need to be able to get into the door and be able to get into the toilet. So and that also comes along with the shower, which is also important, but it's not as important as the toilet, right? You could always do, like a camping shower if you had to, like, you know. But
yeah,
um, the thing is with hotels, you at least know that there's going to have some kind of standard bathroom, right?
yeah,
Like the Airbnb is a little bit more challenging because these are like private residences, right? Mostly in
yeah,
Airbnb. So you don't really know unless you do your research. And Airbnb's gotten a lot better. They have this feature on their app now that has a wheelchair on the top of the app. So you can look at different features on there. So if you research that and you're able to see like, oh, the door width is enough for you to get into the bathroom. They have a shower, and you can call the owner and you can ask them for measurements. I've done that in the past as well. So if that's something that you're able to do and you're comfortable with doing, Airbnb is a great option to hang out with like friends or like big families and things like that. Like if you want to have that communal um, traveling experience, right? Hotels are just easier because you kind of know what to expect when you go into a hotel. You know there's going to be a bed, you know there's going to be a bathroom. You don't know how accessible it's going to be until you really get there, unless you call ahead of time and ask specifically, and even that the person at the front desk may not really know.
Well,
Um,
just to reiterate and touch on it, I think you made a super great point in that more like name brand, like known hotels like Marriott. Marriotts are all over the world. They the standard for accessibility is better for Marriott hotels just because they're like a bigger conglomerate, larger. Like every hotel's got standards. There's regulatory agency, like, and just to give an example, like we stayed at a hotel in Chicago, the Knickerbocker, and it wasn't like really like standard Marriott or whatever. And it was really cool, amazing experience, old building, cool gold filigree, chandeliers everywhere. It was like crystalline nice, but the elevator, I mean, if I was a half an inch wider on either side, I would not have been able to get up to our room. Like it
Well,
was very old, like very the standards weren't the same because it's an older building, because it's more kind of like it's more individual, whatever it is. Like the standards aren't the same as compared to like a Hilton or a Marriott or something like that. So if you're looking for more reliable accessibility, I think that's just really great advice. Unfortunately, like calling the hotel, it isn't great because now it's just like a call service. Like generally you're not even speaking to someone at the location. We've in the past like tried to get them like send us pictures and stuff, like to just try to get some confidence like as to whether or not the bathroom would work or something. And it's really, really difficult with hotels. And that's where I would say just another great point you made. Airbnbs, you can't speak to the owner. You can't have them take pictures and like, even like measuring tapes and stuff. Have done that in the past. Generally, they're more than willing to accommodate you and like this assuring you that it will work for you and stuff. So those are kind of the pros and cons. They're both really, really awesome advice for both of those instances.
yeah, and I was going to mention that too because I just recently did Airbnbs for like I had never really done that before this last year. And the couple that we did stay in, I was able to message, ask them. They actually measured,
Yeah.
the distance, the opening to the shower, the like all the different stuff like that. So it was it was cool. So that was one benefit because like I have tried to call hotels and ask them if they could let me know the bed height and things like that, and I haven't really been able to get that same information. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Uh,
haven't really done much camping. Tom mentioned that before. I am looking to try to do some of that coming up here. Oh,
yeah.
Tom, your mic muted. Yeah, might have to click. Go ahead, Gretchen.
Yeah, I was gonna say camping's on my list. Also cruises are on my list because I heard they're really accessible. Um, I Camping kind of scares me a little bit when it comes to communal showers and bowel and bladder care a little bit. So that's why I haven't taken that jump into full on tent camping. I have done Yosemite cabin camping and things like that. But yeah, just like full on tent camping has kind of scared me. So I'm just with bowel and bladder care and just communal showers. I just didn't know how it would work, but I've heard of great ADA accessible campgrounds and stuff too. So I'm definitely looking into that. So hopefully I'll learn some more from you guys when you guys go.
I have a ton of camping experience. I've been camping my whole life. I've camped mostly with my family, but I've also camped without my family. And the ways that we've done it on a finding accessible campground is awesome. They're generally like super like accessible and awesome. They're exactly what they say. They're like wheelchair campgrounds. You drive right up to it, you park next to it, like you're at the campground. There's no like walk in and carrying your stuff like, down a trail to your place or whatever. Like it's generally, in my experience, and that's been at the beach, that's been in the mountains, that's been in the desert, it's been everywhere I've gone. The campgrounds have been really awesome and accessible in that regard. And also like level and just like little accessible trails and stuff. The medical care cathing is easy. It's just, catheter supplies or whatever. My fam, the way we manage the bowel care, um, we'd either bring a commode chair that was just like collapsible, foldable, or whatever. That's what I have now, like one that I travel with. But early on, my parents made one. They just took like a camp chair and they like cut it up and modified it and made it into like a commode chair that we could travel with, which is awesome, like because they're just like endlessly like adaptable and adapting things. And then sleeping was like the big one for me. Um, I've slept on the ground before, like on a foam mattress or whatever. Uh, Camping, but we ended up the majority of the time we'd travel with a cot. So it would just be like a fold out cot. And It's pretty skinny, pretty tight, but it was comfy, and also like made the transferring aspect like a little bit easier, getting on and off of it compared to like the ground. It was a lot easier when I was little because I was just little and anybody could pick me up. But as I got big and got a little belly, it wasn't as easy the transferring and stuff, or at least like the picking me up and transferring me. I can't transfer to a cot like on my own, um, or something like that. But there's ton of solutions, and the other like solution that I've done and been able to transfer on and off of independently, blow up air mattress. They
Yeah.
make some really luxurious ones now that are like super super tall, meaning like they're like a couple feet up, like they're big,
Yeah.
and they just blow up and they're awesome, and they've been like firm enough and uh, accessible enough that I've been able to transfer on and off of them independently. So that's pretty much like the route I'd go now is probably like a nice comfy air mattress that I could
Yeah.
like somewhat semi easily transfer on and off of. Camping's fun. The bathing part, camp shower,
Yeah.
just like towel it up, like run your hair under some water with some soap outside, and you're good to go. Like at least that's like what I've done in the
Yeah.
past, and um, yeah, depending on your how adventurous you are too, like some of my best camping experiences, again, like are kind of in my backyard, like an hour or two away from home. Like, you don't gotta travel too far. Like, if you gotta bail or you gotta go home or something, like it's just an hour drive. It's nothing crazy, and that's
Right.
like a really great way to I think dip your toes into it if you are looking towards like maybe trying camping and stuff. Is find one that's local and close by, give it a go. See how it goes. If it doesn't go great, that's okay. Failure is fine too because we learn, and the next time we try, we're better
Yeah.
prepared, and we'll problem solve. Where we struggle. So
Yeah.
really
I'm,
encourage everyone to camp
yeah.
and
I'm hoping to at least do like one night. Let me start with one night out
yeah,
in the,
yeah,
you know,
totally.
and then figure it out. I think I could do 1 to 2 nights. The third night is kind of scary for me, but like I think I could do 1 to 2 nights. I'm gonna try to do it.
We
But yeah,
we would go for like 5 days with my family, like out of the coast and stuff, and that'd be a trip. Like that'd be a lot. Like by the time I got home, like I was really excited for our ceiling lift and like a shower and like all the like accessible things we have at home that would make me comfy and that make this stuff easy. But totally worth doing it. And like shout out to my fam. Like when we go camping, I feel like we're glamping. Like my dad's like cooking filet mignon over the fire and like baking cakes in a propane oven and like doing all this crazy stuff, and it's like very fun and like very comfy, and I'm being with the family and like traveling. Also, like that's something too. Like maybe don't solo camp, like go like on your own.
Yeah.
That's your vibe. Go with people. Like camping you will require some assistance, some help. Plus, like camping's more fun with people. Like that's really the joy of like sitting around the campfire with your friends and family. Like that's what it's all about. More so than anything, I think. So yeah, go camping with some folks that can help you out that you love.
yes, agreed.
That is good advice. So
Um,
Gretchen, out of all your trips, or Tom, you have something?
nope. Go shop.
I was
You're
gonna
good.
ask, out of all your trips, you've done quite a bit of travel. What do you have a favorite place that you've been? Someplace that you want, like, really want to go back, or anything like that? That you just, uh, it was just,
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of places. Um, I mean, in California, out of the country. But I don't have a favorite place. I because they're all so wonderful in their own way. I think I have like favorite moments is how I like to think of it. I think post injury I've only been to a few countries like Italy, Spain, Portugal, Mexico, and India. And one of my favorite moments was in I think it was in Italy. I think it just started raining one day. And you know how it is when you're in a wheelchair raining and you're trying to go over cobblestone and go through a city and tour. It's just like not possible. And I remember I was wearing like a poncho. I was like trying to grip my wheels and push with the smart drive through the streets, cobblestone everywhere. I just remember like we found this little pasta place on recommendation from someone and someone local, and we went in there. They were the most welcoming people and let us sit in the restaurant for 3 hours, drinking wine, having appetizers. They would bring us
Nice.
espressos, and I think like they were just having conversation with us. They were just it's like the people that make it right. Those
Mhm.
moments that we totally had to just let go of all the plans that day, and honestly that was probably one of the best days. It's meeting the locals and experiencing and things with them and just chatting with them and experiencing their culture. Those are kind of the moments that I look for. Like, it's so amazing to go to a place and be like, immerse yourself in someone else's life. And I think that's what traveling kind of is for me. It's that sense of adventure, curiosity, and learning, but also recognizing and being compassionate and learning empathy and being able to connect with other people that you would never ever see on a daily basis. I think that's like the most important and rewarding thing of traveling, and it's one of the reasons I'll never stop traveling is just being able to learn about other people.
Go immerse yourself in other people's cultures, people. It's like one of the most like fulfilling, soul feeding things that I've ever experienced too.
Yeah.
And totally agree. I love that. I love that. I love so I just can imagine so many people would like just get frustrated and upset and go back to the hotel room in like the instance of like getting caught in the rain. But having the agency to like let go of the plans and just immerse yourself in whatever experiences come, I think that's super beautiful and like super,
Yeah.
super awesome.
Yeah. Um,
What
I would.
what's been one of your
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, you go, Gretchen. Sorry.
I wanted to share like a story I had with she was a wife had come up to me in the airport, and I had my carry-on suitcase on my lap, and we were going through the TSA line, and she was kind of looking at me, and I knew she wanted to talk to me, and so I gave her that opportunity. I just made eye contact with her. She came up to me and she was like, "Hey, like, do you travel alone? Like, how do you travel? Like, and I was just like, oh, I don't know. I'm just traveling, like I don't know. I have my suitcase and I'm going on the plane. I'm gonna make it there somehow." And I didn't understand what she was asking until she explained that her husband was a quadriplegic and never traveled with her. They had never traveled together, and she really wanted to have him on a trip one time. And I thought about it to myself, and I was like, the fear of like traveling always holds people back from some amazing memories together. And it kind of just brought like, I try to remember that story and try to like encourage people, like, if you're scared or you don't know what you're going to face in the unknown, it's like okay to have that fear, but don't let it like hold you back from experiencing things with your loved ones. There's always a way to do it, and like you don't have to do anything huge or grand or anything crazy um, in terms of like being able to travel with accessibility features or inclusivity or whatever. It's like you can still make time to travel an hour away or even do a staycation together, or like those kind of things too. So I just like encourage people to consider travel even though you don't know what you're going to expect, and don't let it hold you back from something that you want to do. So I just want to share that.
That's great advice. It's something that's really great to leave the audience with, or anybody, yeah, that's listening. Because a lot of people, I know that is a fear for most people, especially if you're kind of newly into being disabled, having a disability, like that fear of the unknown, of not being able to do it. It's hard for most people to get over. So that's great advice, and I strongly encourage people as well to get out and try, and don't let that fear hold you back. Um, Tom, did you want to have anything else? Oh, microphone issues again.
Am
We
I
got.
back? Am I
Oh, there
back?
you go. Now
I'm
you're.
so sorry, you guys. I'm trying to figure this out. This is the last week that I'm gonna have microphone issues. I'm gonna buy a new computer if I have to. Um, I was just gonna say that's great. I love that story. Also, I think it really highlights the importance of having these conversations. Honestly, like the biggest way I think we can help mitigate that fear is of like the unknown, which I think is like a big part of that, like the unknown accessibility issues, the unknowns of wherever you're going, like the unknowns of medical issues, traveling, blah blah blah. The way we solve that is by having conversation about it. The way we solve accessibility issues via like planes and traveling and hotels and Airbnbs and everything is we have a conversation about it. We continue to talk about it. We continue to set a standard for accessibility and regulatory agencies surrounding this stuff. And we hopefully can talk loud enough that other individuals with disabilities can hear our experiences and be like, hey, that sounds cool. That person's doing it. Psh, if they're doing it, I can totally do that. So I love this conversation. We really, we really appreciate you coming on today, Gretchen, and sharing your awesome experiences with it. Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you again, Gretchen. Um, and I'll let you. We'll give you a second to do kind of like a final thought or anything. You kind of already did give a great one, but if you have anything else you want to say, we're just going to do a quick shout out to the sponsors, do the shows, and then we'll let you kind of leave us with the final thought here. Tom, you did it last week. I can go
Go
ahead and do
ahead.
it this
You
week.
got it.
So thank you to our sponsors, Mobility Professionals and Urology Professionals. Mobility Professionals is a DME. They're local to Southern California. So if you are in the Southern California area and need a wheelchair, commode chair, standing frame, anything like that, give them a call. Great customer service, great company. They support a lot of events here locally and do a lot to help out the community. So support them. They support us, and we appreciate them. And their sister company, Urology Professionals, is national. So if you need catheter supplies anywhere in the country, anywhere in the U.S., um, give them a call. They will take care of everything and get you some supplies shipped out right to your door, and to help you with insurance and all that kind of stuff. So make sure to look them up, check them out, and we appreciate our sponsors. So thank you guys, and thank you everybody also that is watching and supporting. We always appreciate everybody. And for shows
You want
come,
me to do the shows? Let me do the
sure, yeah,
shows.
you
You
can
did
do the
the
show.
ads. Tomorrow, Wednesday, gaming with T Fizzle. Well, who's that guy? Oh, wait, that's me. We're gaming, we're hanging, we're chatting, we're partying, we're having a lot of fun. It's a really great hang. We got a great crew of people that come through. If you're a gamer, if you're not a gamer, you want to come hang out, come and join us right here. Live to Roll tomorrow, 5 p.m. roughly.
Yeah, check it out. It's always fun, and I am actually learning how to game a little bit, so I'm trying to practice. I'm gonna try to join the gaming with Tom there and
Heck yeah.
hang
It's
out.
going to
So
be fun. We
yeah,
also have coming up on Thursday
Thursday we actually have the Wheel Girl Talk.
Wheel Girl Talk with Brianna and Nikki and Ashley and Maya and Jessica. Some of the coolest, most badass ladies out there. They have a ton of awesome life experience and amazing advice for navigating life with disability. They do talk about a lot of women centered topics, but it's about disability also in general. So everyone's welcome to come and hang out. And Brianna always does an amazing job and hosts an incredible show. So if you feel so inclined, highly encourage you to check it out Thursday, 3 p.m. every third Thursday of the month.
And
And the second and fourth,
we
I
got
think I'm right. We
yeah, second
got
and fourth.
Rolling Hill with Bobby and Lewis and Robert, talking about aging with disability. Super important topic that we got to continue to talk about and raise awareness about, and help individuals navigate this crazy process of growing up and getting older. Bobby and the boys, they're awesome. So go check it out.
Yeah,
And
they
on
actually had last week also they did a little bit more of a specific show talking about colostomies and getting a colostomy later in life. So if that's something that has been on your mind or anything, make sure to check out their show. And then also we have Rolling with the Golden Oldies. Go if you want to introduce.
a bunch of awesome ladies. Mickey has been in the chat hanging out with us. Mickey is on there. Um, uh,
Julianne, Michelle, and
Julia,
Ellen.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like on everyone's
But
names
they're
right
all
now.
amazing. I think that they are
I do know
really,
all these women. They're awesome.
and they are actually, I believe they are actually talking a little bit about travel and things as well for their show coming up the first week of September. So check that out in a few weeks coming up. And they all have a lot of great experiences as well. So make sure to check them out.
And what
And
about on Monday? Is Hell Wheels coming back?
he should
Maybe,
this Monday. I think
hopefully.
this Monday.
All
So
right. We got more gaming too on Monday. If you want to come and hang out with Sue Rob and do some gaming on Monday, we got all kinds of stuff. Literal never stops, almost every day of the week. So come and get some content. Come and hang out with us, and we'll all have a good time together.
yes. And
And
thank
we're
you
back
guys
every
for you guys
Tuesday.
watching. And
This
so
show
Gretchen.
would never miss. Every
Yeah.
Tuesday, Live to Roll, right here, 3:30. Awesome guests, cool people.
That
I
is
feel
right.
like I botched that. I'm sorry, Sean. You should do the
Oh,
show.
no,
We're
it's fine.
live, baby. It's all good. It's all good.
No, that's all good. Yeah, we got all the shows intro. That's everything we got, guys. We appreciate you guys. Gretchen, do you want to leave us with any final thought? You already did have honesty. That was a great
Yeah, I
piece.
mean, yeah, no, nothing too crazy that I haven't said before, but just do it. Start small, but do it. Ask people, research, slide into my DMs, ask me if you're interested in anything. I know I message people all the time when I see them go on trips. So there's people out there if you have any questions. And then remember to always bring an Allen wrench, and then it's adaptable, not always accessible. So thanks for having me, you guys.
Where can we find you, Gretchen? Are you like
Um,
social media?
I'm mainly on Instagram at Gretchen Squad, so I
Okay.
usually put a lot of my stuff on there. So yeah, message me.
I
Okay.
do have that in the description below, so you can check that out. Make sure to click it. It's Gretchen's Quad, so check it out.
And if anybody wants to reach out to any of us too, all of our personal like socials, my email is in the description. If anybody does want to reach out and chat about anything, we're more than happy to chat and talk. And yeah,
Yep. Thank you guys all for watching. We appreciate you. Gretchen, thank you again for
thank you,
joining,
Gretchen.
imparting your knowledge. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Live to roll, everybody.